Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're here with Austin, who got first place at a Louisiana 1K over the weekend. How's it going today, Austin?
Doing great. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me on.
No problem, dude. You came first place with a very cool deck in Evolution Booster format. So basically, yesterday what I did was I did the top cut breakdown of Evolution Booster weekend. That there was the Louisiana 1K and there was also the PPG online event. That was no Evolution Booster, but your tournament that you went to actually had Evolution Booster. So pretty cool change in the dynamic. And OG Broly did actually get some support. So all in all, what made you want to play OG Broly?
It's been one of my favorite decks since the start of the game. I jumped into the game right on initial release, and it was the first card game I'd played in a while. I'd kind of stopped playing a bunch of others, and since then I've mostly played blue and green, and I've almost always had a green Broly deck built that just every now and then I pull it out, update it, maybe play it a few times at locals or whatever. Then put it to the side if something else has got my attention. But it's been one of my favorite decks since the start. And of course, the new field card just made the deck so much more consistent and playable.
Yeah, it definitely did, and that's so funny because I think like Broly as a character, whether it's like Broly or Broly BR, like this character really does have like a cult following, which is really cool. Like I think it has the biggest cult following of like any leader or of any character in Dragon Ball, which is kind of cool. But I think leader's really strong. I mean, obviously it's a set one leader, so you wouldn't really expect it to be too strong. But once you get your setup going, you're drawing cards and you're ripping cards from the opponent's hand and their boards. That's a really powerful dynamic. Takes a little bit of setup, but I mean, you shouldn't have something like that for free, right? So a little bit of setup, I think that's okay. But anyways, we'll take a look at what you played in the main deck. So we've got 4 Demigod Unison Sorcery, 4 Broly Sand Berserker, and 3 Demonic Restraint. So this is pretty much like, these are pretty much your starter cards, right? So I would imagine you want to mull for these cards. I know a lot of people run like this 4-3 split of like the Sand Berserker and the Demonic Restraint. Did you ever try 4-4, or was 7 copies just good enough?
I haven't yet. I actually, for a little bit at locals, and it was running pretty good. I was running at 3-3 because I got annoyed with seeing it so much once I saw one early. But, of course, it's how the deck runs. If you miss one on turn 1 or turn 2 and you have to go longer than that to find it, the whole deck stops. So I think 4-3 was kind of the best number that most of us have hit. And then the 1-drop Broly, I'm guessing we'll talk about here in a second, also helps you find your SS3 if you really hit a hard spot and you don't see either of them early on.
True, yeah, that's fair. You definitely do need it to start. I guess 7 is probably a pretty good number. And then we have a few more of like our baseline starter cards. Of course, we're playing 4 super combos. I've seen some people play like Bionic Blitz, but I think Paragus is probably the best one. Like once you get your leader going with the field card and everything, you're taking so many cards away from the opponent that I think you just want to have like a cycle super combo. And like you said too, seeing a lot of those SS3 Brolys can be really clunky, so being able to cycle those out is really good. And then you mentioned already the 1-drop Broly Dawn of the Rampage, another set 1 card, but it helps you find that SS3 Broly, which is great. And then 4 Paragus Sacrifice. So this is one of the really broken interactions with the deck, right? Playing this guy, popping your field card comes right back. How often are we able to either set this guy up or set up multiples of him and just draw like uninterrupted? Did that happen, or did people like take this guy out like as soon as you played him?
Pretty much every game. That is the one that, I mean, turn 1, ideally, you get one of your, either your Ring or your ISR, the SS3 Broly. If I see the Demigra, I want to play it turn 1. But sometimes, especially going first, it depends on what I'm seeing. If I think it's a deck that's going to have a lot of removal, I will try to get Paragus out right away on turn 1 to save the energy. But I had quite a few games throughout the day and playing the deck recently where if they don't have a bunch of removal like in the green mirror, the Paragus can sit, and yeah, every turn draw an extra card, draw 2 extra cards, just filter the deck, and then it plays into your super combo here where I pull an extra dead card, an extra card that I don't want, go ahead and warp it out, and just keep filtering through the deck, find your big boys, find your secret. Works pretty well.
Yeah, I think the thing with this deck is that it does take a decent amount of setup, but once you get that setup, the payoff is like so big, which I think is a really cool thing about the deck. and here's the Broly lineup you decided to play. So you're gonna have to explain this to me, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not much of a Broly player, an OG Broly player, so I'll have you just kind of explain it. You're playing 3 copies of Broly the Swift Berserker. This is one of the new cards out of Evolution Booster, but you're not actually playing the other 1-drop from Evo Booster. So just talk to us a little bit about like why this card's good in the deck and maybe why the other one's not so good in the deck.
So for me, I've seen plenty of people playing the new 1-drop, or at least testing recently. I do like the card, but it's just a matter of space and preference. It lets you go into a 4-drop quickly, which you have the Swift Berserker here as a target, or Deathless, one of the old promo cards, that I do think is really strong. But for me, turn 1, turn 2, I ended up mostly using my energy as setup for Demigra, Paragus, 1-drop Broly if I need to search, maybe a couple of other things. I found that I didn't really ever have the energy for the other 1-drop, or for its play on turn 2. I like the Swift Berserker just for, I would try to do a little bit of control early, set myself up. Then the turn 3, the activate main, once if your leader's a mono green, of course Broly is, you have 3 or more energy, which I got this off all the time going first with 3 energy. So my opponent at 2, choose one of your mono green battle cards with 1-cost Broly, so the one we just showed before and its character name, or your extra card with an energy cost 1 and field skill, place it in the drop area, then you play the Broly for 1 green energy. So on turn 3, especially if I'm not playing something blue that could bounce it back, pay 1, Broly comes out. Then you have the auto triggers for when this card is played. I pay another green. I choose one of my opponent's battle cards, KO it. If you do, you play a mono green Broly with the evolve skill on top. For me, this opened up the Broly the Supreme Berserker that I always thought would be an amazing card if it didn't take you 5-4 energy in the past to get him out, because he has crit, barrier, once per turn. When he swings, you burst 5, and then it opens up an option. If my opponent has 4 more cards in hand, which often they did on turn 3, I get to see their hand and rip a card. Even if they negate, the negate actually works just as well. They're dropping a card, dropping maybe multiple cards if they're playing a dormant or something like that. And then I still get to see their hand and rip anything. Or the other ability is if my opponent has 3 or less cards in hand, he switches himself to active mode, giving me a dual attack crit, 30k on turn 3. This with barrier, I got it out pretty consistently on turn 3, or if not, turn 4 throughout the day if I was able to filter the deck. And I did not at once have him popped, killed, or removed. He did so much work once I got him out.
Nice.
Then the other Broly, the old 6-drop, is a fan favorite for a lot of people. The ring lets you play it for 3, rip 2 cards. I still like it, but I didn't play it as much the other day. I did have a couple times that somebody would rest mode Broly the Swift Berserker on play, but not rest mode, but not negate a skill. So okay, I'm not going to get the swing. If I had Broly the Rampaging Horn in hand, then I would pay the one to go to him just to rip 2 cards at random. So you're getting to have hand destruction without your opponent getting to choose the cards, which is so big because anytime I did, I just see the frustration on people's faces. It's tough when you don't get to choose what you discard and your opponent gets the choice.
Right, yeah. The random discard is always much better than the letting your opponent basically discard the worst 2 cards in their hand, right? Yeah, the random discard is always pretty huge. And then we've got some of our other utility cards, right? So a lot of these pair with our Unison. So we have 3 Dormant, 3 instead of 4. I'm just curious, why? Why 3 instead of 4?
Seeing it regularly and thinking I was going to face a pretty quick meta as far as the event, as far as how games would go. Most of the time, if I saw one and timed it right, I was fine. Of course, playing a couple of Roshi helps you recycle. It was just a little bit more of a deck count at first. Once I added in a couple of newer cards and everything I wanted, I was sitting at 56, 57 cards.
I see.
And so the day of, my teammates and I were just trying to cut it down a few cards. And I thought 3 in the main for Dormant was enough most of the time. And then, of course, Shocking Death Ball, everyone knows.
Yep.
Freeze the Charismatic Villain on turn 1 or turn 2 with your Demigra is so strong. and then of course Fusamasu off of him for 1 energy just plays into the hand control and something else that isn't going to be removed 99% of the time once he hits the board.
Yeah, I love the combo of Frieza and Zamasu. I love it so much. It's so strong. And then for some more utility cards, we're playing 2 Power Legend Goku. I love this card in the deck. Even though it's 0-cost combo, I mean, your leader just like inherently triggers it, so that's really strong. We've got 2 Zarbon Cosmic Elite and 2 Master Roshi. Master Roshi makes perfect sense. The Zarbon, though, a lot of green decks are actually cutting this card now. How did you feel about it?
I've thought about it. I kept going back and forth. Recently, I've been playing the Tapion Blue-Green blocker that you pay 1, place the card in the drop, draw a card, and it brings itself out at the end of the turn. It's a 15k. I really like that. I really like getting the card versus losing cards. But with the 7-drop Broly giving you the burst mechanic, I wanted some stuff that it gave me options when it was placing the drop off the burst. And that, of course, happened pretty regularly throughout the day. And the I still love the blocker combo or the blocker protection with Dormant. If I only needed to survive turn 3 or turn 4, those normally got me through it.
Gotcha. Yeah, Dormant plus blocker, definitely a really, really sick combo. And then we've got Rebrand and 2 Gohan Hidden Might, 1 SS4 Bardock, and 1 Celestino Unspeakable Abomination. So I gotta ask, why the 1 Rebrand, and why not just like cut it all together?
I kind of thought about it throughout the day. Again, just maybe keeping a couple of cards for the
burst.
The burst mechanic. I really didn't see her that much or use her that much. It's one that I would maybe just cut the 1 of, or just completely move it to the side. I kind of struggled on maybe playing her, maybe playing the new Rosie, maybe playing 1 Yellow Ape for draw if my own draw was struggling. I just kind of kept 1 in case of. Then, I mean, Gohan did a lot for me, and I always kept this in because at my locals, we have an Invoker player who's really good, but that does so much, having barrier removal. Once you get to 3 life, which of course this deck does pretty quickly if you want it to, and then the finishers are the finishers. Everybody knows how strong both of those cards are.
Yeah, of course. And just back to the 1-of thing, I know many high-level players that love their 1-of, so not knocking it at all. I just definitely wanted to. I was a little curious as to why the 1 rebrand, but the burst mechanic makes a lot of sense. The Hidden Might Gohan, I think, is actually an incredible card, and I think with your field card, right, you can pretty much take life whenever you want, right? When it leaves the field, yes. You can take life and bring it back, right? Yes,
and so I did that at times. I've also, one thing I think some people might know, some people might not, is the Broly leader removal is your choice. So I would regularly choose the removal and remove a Gohan or the Black Goku if I needed an extra copy or wanted to trigger the effect again. So maybe play them, swing or get use out of them, either swing, draw, pop 1 of them instead of just trigger the ring effect. And it opens up, it gets rid of that unique so that I can go ahead and play another copy of them if it benefits me at the time.
I see, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, because I can see a lot of situations where that would kind of be relevant. So we'll take a quick look at the side deck. I'll kind of just let you explain your choices here and talk about where these cards were useful.
Fair enough. The Dark Broly Unison is one of my favorite cards. Before the Battle Evolution cards, I was maining 2 of this. I really like it, but again, I felt like I wanted to play a little bit quicker in a best of 3 format, timed, and honestly, I didn't need it much of the day. There were some matchups that I wanted it, and I cited it in, and even when I didn't see it, but I still think the card is really strong, and if you're playing a less aggro or a little bit slower version of the deck, I think it's really good. Being able to pitch your own cards, especially cards you want in the drop, to force pitch and removal from your opponent. And Double Strike 20k does a lot of work, or just helps you get rid of units if you need to. The Cells Command Maya has been in my main lately. I moved it to the side because of the new cards, and honestly, I didn't side it at all day. I would maybe move that out for another rebrand, another the Rosie down below. maybe just another one-drop Broly if I need help searching, but I really like the card, but at least in this list, I didn't really think I need to side it in most of the day or ever use it. For the greater good, for extra negate, for the drop negate, and maybe the mirror if I'm being forced to pitch, or just need extra defense. The Mecha Kimura, the Broken Seal, is an amazing card. I wanted to side 2, I ran out of space, so I just kept 1 in for Dark Broly matchup to be able to call out their 6s, or decks where I know what they're going to play on a turn. The Homicidal Clones was probably my favorite card out of the side. Being able to get a negate and a blocker for just taking a life and adding it to hand once you get to 5, which of course this leader gets yourself to 5. Basically every turn 2 throughout the day, I was at 5 or awakened. Just really useful. I used it a couple times throughout the day where I felt that probably my opponent thought I was backed into a corner. I'm tapped out. I'm maybe at 2 or 3. I might have Shocking Death Ball, but it actually kind of saved me 2 attacks by the negate and then getting a blocker out right afterward. Bigger More was great for me the one time that I played Dark Bully during the day. I really like that card for green. I feel like it's a kind of a mandatory side right now. Blue Impulse I put in for decks that wanted to go wide, play stuff on my turn. I was thinking Launch, Piccolo, stuff like that. I sided it in a couple times at the end of the day, but didn't really get use out of it that much. I just didn't see it when I felt like I wanted to, but the deck still did fine. The Goku rate for extra draw, just in case I needed it. The Rosie is a card that, the new Rosie from the Battle Evolution box, is a card that I think is really good. That would maybe be the card that I would put in place of one card, or in place of the rebrand. Just the deflect helps it so much. But most of the time on my turn 3, I didn't want to tap out 3 for it, or most of the time on turn 4, I was already pushing for game. And then Through the Dark Vanisher for the long games, for blue matchups, Sin. Sided it a couple times during the day and just didn't end up using it, but that's one of my favorite side cards right now.
All right, man. Very cool. I appreciate you going through the entire list with us. It was definitely very, very informative, especially for someone like me who doesn't really play this deck much, so I do appreciate it. Any final shout-outs you want to throw out there?
Sure. I'd love to shout out to the City Boys, my crew in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Looking forward to us going out to more events. We all used to, of course, pre-pandemic, slow down for a little bit, but this was a nice little coming out after mostly just playing locals or at home lately. And then shout out to Andrew in the local game store in the Dallas area, and Epic over in Hearst, my 2 locals and the places that we hang out and play weekly, and they let us test and be crazy and yell at each other all the time. So
awesome, man. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.